Hi, everybody. We're going to talk a little bit about the New Frontier and the Great Society, which are two very big presidential ideas, presidential programs that you definitely have to know for the EOC. Um, we're working with Tennessee U.S. History Standard 88 and 96. So we're talking about Kennedy's New Frontier, and we're talking about Johnson's Great Society. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to summarize what the New Frontier was and summarize the goal of the Great Society. All right, so there's a brand new election in 1960, and 1960 is the election when television changes it. Okay. A lot of people were looking for a change, right? They wanted something new after World War II, and a lot of people thought we were losing the Cold War because the Soviets keep beating us in the space race and a bunch of other stuff. So they're wanting someone who can shake things up and start beating the Soviet Union. And here's the thing. This is the first election that was ever aired on television, where all of the debates were aired on television. You got 70 million Americans who are watching this election. And this is going to launch the television age for politics. This is whenever TV starts getting interested in following politics. And the two people who are running against each other, the Democrat was this guy, John F. Kennedy, and the Republican was this guy, Richard Nixon. Okay. So here's the thing. When they had the series of presidential debates, it was really interesting to watch because the people who listened to it on the radio, who just listened, believed Nixon won. But the people who watched it on television believed Kennedy won. And here's why. Kennedy understood the power of television. So whenever he was offered stage makeup and he was offered coaching on how to comport himself, he took all that stuff. So he wore makeup. He made sure that he stayed hydrated. He stayed, calm and comported the whole time. Whereas Nixon refused that makeup stuff. He thought it was for sissies. So he's going to sweat like you would not believe on national television. He's fidgety. He's still focusing on the issues, but he's not paying attention to the image he's portraying. Okay. He's not paying attention to the way he looks, whereas Kennedy definitely was. So the people who are watching it see this calm, cool, composed Kennedy versus this hot, sweaty mess that is Nixon. And this is kind of where people start to make judgments based on what they see, as well as what they hear. Kennedy wins. He is the youngest person ever to be elected to office. Now, Roosevelt was our youngest president ever to serve, but he was 42. Kennedy doesn't beat him by much. Okay. Kennedy was 43 when he was elected. He was the youngest man ever elected. He was also the only Catholic that has ever been elected to the presidency. And he was a very forward-thinking president. He's going to help prepare the nation for the changes that are coming around the corner. And he is going to be known for surrounding himself with what he called the best and the brightest. So he's surrounding himself with people that are focused on social change and these great thinkers to help him come up with ideas. Now, Kennedy is concerned with two major issues. The first one is the war on poverty that they need to have, the fact that a lot of people in America were too poor to exist. And the second issue he's focusing on is civil rights. Now, civil rights, he comes into that a little bit later in his career. His brother, Ted, was really the civil rights Kennedy for a while. And once John Kennedy gets elected, his brother keeps giving him all this information about the stuff the civil rights movement is doing. And that kind of changed Kennedy's heart here, and he starts focusing on civil rights. So one of the first things Kennedy does is he starts trying to address poverty, not just in America, but also around the world. Because if we can get the rest of the world to be industrialized and to be making money, then there's going to be a lot more developed countries and a lot more markets for our goods. So he creates the Peace Corps. And the Peace Corps literally was just to spread goodwill about America. It was to go do nice things for other countries and make them think good about us. You got thousands of young Americans who volunteered to go to these other countries and help develop them, build roads, build schools, help build, irrigation systems, that type of stuff. And he's going to focus specifically during this time on Latin America and Africa. And then it's all cut short for him. Okay. He takes office in 1961. On the 22nd of November, 1963, while traveling down a motorcade in Dallas, Texas, Kennedy was shot. He was assassinated. And this is going to shock Americans who are watching the tragedy on TV over and over and over again. It's kind of like what happened on 9/11, where it was on every channel, right? And I'll show you the Zapruder film in class. The assassin, the guy who did it, his name was Lee Harvey Oswald. He shot Kennedy from the 6th story of the Texas School Book Depository. He's going to be killed 2 days later by a man named Jack Ruby. Ruby had ties with the mob. He had ties with organized crime. So Ruby's going to end up going to jail, and Ruby will end up dying 2 years later from cancer. Okay. And this is kind of the beginning of, all of the conspiracy theories about Kennedy, that Oswald didn't really do it, and the mob did it, and they chose Ruby to go and silence Oswald because, he was going to die anyway. Okay. All right. So the Warren Commission was headed by Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Earl Warren. It was a 10-month investigation that studied this assassination. And they decided that Oswald acted alone. There was only one shooter, okay? Which is going to leave a lot of unanswered questions, okay? Like, how did they get them from the third angle? Like, how did that happen? Conspiracy theories are going to abound because of this, okay? And every time a president dies, it's one of those "the king is dead, long live the king" things, where the second the president dies, vice president becomes president. Lyndon B. Johnson is going to assume command after JFK's assassination. Now, Johnson was a longtime politician, so he had spent a lot longer in politics than Kennedy had. Johnson had spent a lot of time serving in the House of Representatives and the Senate, and he knew how to get things done in Congress. And one of the first things he's going to get pushed through is the Civil Rights Act, because that was Kennedy's baby. Okay. So Johnson is going to use his political skills with great effect early on. Whenever he cannot use political skills on you, he's going to use intimidation, because he was a great big old man. He's great big. He's got that Texas attitude, and he's not going to be afraid to use his height to intimidate people to get what he wants. So you see, okay, he's very much known for getting up in people's business, right, intimidating them. He gets Congress to pass a lot of the programs created by Kennedy, and they called this the Johnson treatment. Okay, people got that a lot. I need to remind myself here to tell you about how he dealt with people he didn't like. Okay. Johnson's going to focus on Kennedy's New Frontier for a while. Okay. Johnson felt it was necessary to complete what JFK had started, which was the War on Poverty and Civil Rights. So he is going to pass the Economic Opportunities Act, which was an anti-poverty bill that set up youth programs and job training programs to help get people good paying jobs. The Great Society. Okay, Johnson believed that the United States should use its wealth to advance the quality of American civilization. Okay, he said, our aim is not to relieve the symptom of poverty, but to cure it, and above all, to prevent it. So we don't want to just cure poverty. We want to keep it from ever happening again. That's part of the Great Society. Now you're going to see a lot of civil rights activists. That's Martin Luther King there talking to Johnson. Part of this is, can the civil rights movement convince him to include Black Americans in his programs. Okay. One of the last things he's going to get done is he's going to help Americans out with medical expenses. He passes the Medicare bill and the Medicaid bill. Both of these get passed in 1965. Medicare gave citizens who were over 65 a low-cost option for hospital insurance. So this gives elderly people basically insurance so they can go to the hospital if they need to. And it was financed by the Social Security tax. Okay. Medicaid does basically the same thing, only it does it to people who are too poor to pay for insurance themselves. So basically, if you qualified for welfare, if you qualified for, today it's if you qualify for, food stamps or WIC, that type of stuff, you can go on Medicaid, which is, very low cost health insurance. And it's financed through Social Security. And that is it.